psychiatric profession and use mental health laws as a means of gaining coercive control over those who oppose communist goals. This is going on right now as we speak in the United States of America. Legislation, well, not even legislation, what am I saying? Obama has just passed some, or just declared some executive edict that the FBI information, if somebody suspects, if someone accuses someone of being crazy or mentally ill, that information can be passed to the government and used in and of itself to, deprive people of the right to own firearms. And it's going to get to the point where people are going to be, as they were in the Soviet Union, people are going to be declared mentally unfit or insane simply for not conforming to the agenda of Washington, D.C., specifically being an Orthodox believing Christian. For example, calling Bruce Jenner a man. If you call Bruce Jenner a man, you are crazy. You are mentally unstable. You must be put away for the protection of society. This is a form of gaslighting. Now, it's interesting, when diabolical narcissists run up against a person of sufficiently strong character that is keenly attuned to reality and is thus not susceptible to accusations of insanity, the diabolical narcissist then drops into a second and final form of gaslighting, accusing the victim of being a bad person. Public character assassination may then follow. Another example, going back to the Legion of Christ criminal organization that is currently infecting the church. When the founder of this criminal organization, this racketeering organization, a man named Marcel Maciel, Mexican priest, when people, before he was exposed, were desperately trying to whistleblow about this criminal organization, what the Legion of Christ did is that they would send out toadies to declare these people were either crazy or bad people and would character assassinate them. This is what the Clintons do, okay? Paula Jones was characterized by the Clinton machine as being crazy and then characterized as being a gold digger. They did the same thing to Monica Lewinsky. Not that I'm defending Monica Lewinsky, but she was characterized as being crazy and or just a bad person by the Clinton machine itself. These are the tactics that these evil, diabolical people use in order to maintain control of situations. Outright character assassination. Diabolical narcissists know the difference between right and wrong. In fact, some of them write entire books about it. Don't ever forget that. They're not moral cripples. They know exactly what they're doing. They know what's right. They know what's wrong. They have no excuse. This description of diabolical narcissism is merely skeletal. In order to flesh out the corpus, one key concept must be added, which psychology lacks. Here we go. Here we go into punchline number one. We have to integrate the supernatural into this. You cannot have an intelligent discussion of any of these dynamics unless you acknowledge the supernatural, unless you discuss these concepts vis-a-vis the supernatural. So if you're sitting there right now rolling your eyes and saying, oh, she's jumping the shark now, well, that's your decision. You can turn it off right now. But I'm telling you that if you are going to disqualify the supernatural in all this, you have no hope. I mean, this is like trying to do mathematics without the zero. Good luck with that. Psychology, quote unquote, denies the supernatural, the soul, the notion of sin, especially original sin. Psychology is concerned with excuses that explain away evil. Remember, if a person has a genuine excuse for some action, there is no sin, because an excuse by definition is a dispensation from moral culpability. Modern psychology is completely concerned with generating an excuse for every single act of evil in the world. That's what it is. That's why it's so monstrously flawed. And you know, we've all been trained to do this, including myself. We've all been trained to make excuses for every sin and malefaction. An exercise, let's go through this together. Make psychological excuses for the following diabolical narcissist psychopaths. I can do this in my sleep, we all can. Okay, Napoleon. Napoleon, he was short. He was short, and when he stood next to tall guys, he felt really insecure and bad about himself. So then he turned into a crazed dictator who felt the need to kill hundreds of thousands of his own men by invading Russia in the winter. But we can all do it. Oh, it's not his fault. He was short. He was insecure. That's a clear example. Hitler, ooh, this one's really easy to do. Hitler, okay, father was a drunken psychopath who beat him and his mother, so he becomes inordinately attached to his mother, and then starts somehow being sexually abused. We know this because he was arrested working as a boy prostitute at age 14, working in the gay ghetto of Vienna. So yeah, there you go. That explains everything, doesn't it? That justifies all of his crimes. No, he was he was an evil person. He was an evil. Bad things certainly happened to him, but that does not mean that you have an excuse to do anything. You're not dispensed from the notion of sin, but psychology says you are. Oh, look at that piece of crap, Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy, how do we justify this rapist murderer? Okay, his daddy, Joe Kennedy Sr., was a complete psychopath criminal. His mother was probably also a sociopath because she just totally enabled and put up with all of this goings on. He felt insecure because his three older brothers were kind of big studs that the father expected them all to be president of the United States. Joe Jr. was killed as a war hero in World War II. Of course, Jack Kennedy was also a war hero, and then comes back and is a United States senator and becomes president of the United States and is assassinated. And then Bobby Kennedy, smart guy, attorney general, et cetera, and Teddy, who's not very bright, felt insecure next to his brothers, and he was raised by his father and his older brothers to be an absolute whoremonger. Does that dispense him from the fact that he murdered Mary Jo Kopechne? Murderer. Nope, sure doesn't. He's a bad man. He's a bad man. Born with a silver spoon in his mouth, had every opportunity, chose it. He chose it and he was responsible for it. Finally, this is really easy to do. Barack Obama. All right, let's see. His mother's a whore. His mother hops from bed to bed with the frequency of a cheap ham radio, gets knocked up by a black guy. We're still not exactly sure who. So she births him, and then whoever the father is gone, wants nothing to do with him. The mother then marries an Indonesian communist Muslim. Oh, and by the way, the maternal grandparents are communists. Okay. So the mother marries an Indonesian communist Muslim. So now that's his stepfather. He's taken to Indonesia. He's put into a Muslim madrasa, and they hire a male to female transvestite, a drag queen, to be his nanny. So he's probably sexually abused at the Muslim madrasa school because, that's just the way it is. And he's probably being abused in some way by this aberosexual pervert who is hired as his nanny. The mother has another child, a daughter, with the Indonesian. A few years later, the mother decides that she really doesn't want to have Barry around anymore, so she takes him back to Hawaii, dumps him on the communist grandparents. They don't really want him. What they do is then they dump him off to be mentored on a black man who is a high up operative in the Communist Party and who is a bisexual pornographer. His name is Frank Marshall Davis, who may or may not have been his father, and there's also pretty compelling evidence that Frank Marshall Davis probably sexually abused Barack Obama too. So by the time Barack Obama goes to college, he is a hard drug-using sodomite. Does that excuse or dispense Barack Obama from the crimes against humanity that he has committed, that have been committed in his name? Nope, sure doesn't. Sorry you had a suboptimal childhood. Lots and lots of people do. This is not an excuse, carte blanche, to commit any and all manner of sin. It simply is not. Psychology has conditioned us to believe that there is no such thing as sin, evil, and especially wicked or evil people. Let me just ask you a question. Is there any such thing as a bad person? Well, a few years ago, any sane person would say instantaneously, obviously, yes, there are lots of bad people. There are lots of really bad people. Do you realize that our culture is so far gone? We are not allowed to say this anymore. We are not allowed to say that there is any such thing as a bad person, no matter what they do. Unless we acknowledge the supernatural, specifically the existential reality of Satan, demons, and hell, and their interaction with this world, which is massive, there can be no real understanding of diabolical narcissism. Diabolical narcissist, this is the definition. This is the pinnacle. This is what this entire presentation is revolving around, so pay close attention. Diabolical narcissists are human beings that have, by their own free will, chosen to purge themselves of all love, and another word for love is charity, which is used very often in Scripture, and thus all positive emotions derived from love. When a human being, for whatever reason, decides, I am not going to love. Is it a defense mechanism? For most of them, probably yes. It doesn't matter. They decide, I am not going to love. And they begin this process, and it can happen very quickly, of purging all love out of their heart. Incapable of love. Think about that. Incapable of love. And then incapable of all of the emotions that are derived from love. Happiness, joy, pleasure, gratitude, even sadness, mourning. These people are incapable of this. In purging themselves of all charity, they become incapable of love. Because they are incapable of love, the only emotions that they feel with depth are the big four: anger, hatred, jealousy or envy, and fear. This is what I will refer to for the rest of the lecture as the demonic emotional palette. This is exactly what demons are. They are fallen angels